Practical Mental Influence and Mental Fascination, 1908, by William Walker Atkinson. Lesson 4, Mental Concentration. What mental concentration is and how it works. The occult teachings regarding concentration. How to concentrate. How to develop the powers of concentration. A course of training described and explained. The two principal factors in the manifestation of mental influence in all of its forms are what are known as 1. Concentration, and 2. Mental imaging. The first of these factors shall be considered in this chapter, the succeeding chapter taking up the consideration of the second factor. Concentration is a word derived from two Latin words, i.e. con, a prefix meaning to, and centrum, meaning center or fixed central point. The two words combined mean literally to bring to a common point, to focus, etc. Thus the word concentration is seen to mean literally the act or state of bringing to a fixed point or focus. Borrowing an analogous illustration from physical science, we readily see that the highest forms of energy, force, or power are manifested by bringing the force to a focus, center, or common point, thereby directing to that point the entire energy employed, instead of allowing it to become dissipated over a larger area. The electricity generated by a battery or dynamo, if allowed to diffuse itself over a large surface, manifests but a small degree of the power that may be obtained from it by compelling it to discharge itself from a small point of focus. The same is true regarding the power of steam, which manifests great power by being forced to discharge itself through a small point or opening instead of being permitted to spread itself widely in the air. The same law applies to gunpowder, which manifests force by its gases being compelled to escape through the small gun barrel instead of spreading in all directions, which it would do if unconfined. Another familiar example is that of the sunglass or burning glass, which brings the rays of the sun to a common point of focus, greatly intensifying the heat and light by reason thereof. The occult masters have ever impressed upon their pupils the importance and necessity of acquiring the power of mental concentration, and all trained and developed occultists have practiced and persevered towards this end, the result being that some of them attained almost miraculous mental powers and influence. All occult phenomena is caused in this way, and all occult power depends upon it. Therefore, the student of mental influence should devote much thought, time, and practice to this most important branch of the subject. It is a known fact to all students of mental phenomena that very few persons possess more than a very small degree of concentration. They allow the mental forces to become scattered and dissipated in all directions, and obtain little or no results from the same. In the degree that a man is able to concentrate, so is he able to manifest mental power. A man's power of mental concentration is to a great extent his measure of greatness. Mental concentration in practice consists of focusing the mind upon a given subject or object firmly and fixedly, and then holding it there for a certain time, fully intent upon its object, and not allowing itself to be diverted or attracted from its object. It likewise consists in the correlative power of then detaching the mind from that subject or object, and either allowing it to rest or else focusing it upon another object. In other words, it either gives undivided attention or else inhibits or shuts off attention from the given subject or object. To the reader who has had no experience along the lines of mental concentration, it may seem like a very easy task to focus the mind upon a subject and then hold it there firmly and fixedly. But little practice will undeceive such a person, and will bring him to a realizing sense of the difficulty of the task. The mind is a very restless thing, and its tendency is to dance from one thing to another, darting here and there, soon tiring of continued attention, and, like a spoiled child, seeking a new object upon which to exercise itself. On the other hand, many people allow their minds to concentrate involuntarily upon whatever may strike the fancy, and forgetting everything else, they give themselves up to the object attracting their attention for the moment, often neglecting duties and important interests, and becoming daydreamers instead of firm thinkers. This involuntary concentration is the thing to be avoided, for it is the allowing of the attention to escape the control of the will. The mental concentration of the occultists is a very different thing. It is solely in control of the will, being applied when desirable and taken off or inhibited when desirable. The trained occultist will concentrate upon a subject or object with a wonderful intensity, seemingly completely absorbed in the subject or object before him and oblivious to all else in the world. And yet, the task accomplished or the given time expired, he will detach his mind from the object and will be perfectly fresh, watchful, and wide awake to the next matter before him. There is every difference in being controlled by involuntary attention, which is the species of self-hypnotization, and the control of the attention, which is an evidence of mastery. A celebrated French psychologist has well said, "The secret of mental concentration lies in the control of the attention, and the control of the attention lies in the exercise of the will." The authority is subject to the superior authority of the ego. I yield it or I withhold it as I please. I direct it in turn to several points. I concentrate it upon each point as long as my will can stand the effort. Sully says attention may be roughly defined as the active self-direction of the mind to any object which presents itself at the moment. All of the occult authorities begin teaching their pupils attention as the first step towards mental concentration. They instruct the pupil to examine some familiar object and endeavor to see as many details as possible in the object. Then, after hearing the pupil's report, the master sends him back to the task, bidding him seek for new details, and so on, until at last the pupil has discovered about all concerning the object that can be discovered. The next day, a new object is given him, and the process is repeated. First, simple objects are given, and then more complex ones, until at last objects of great complexity are easily mastered. In this way, not only is the power of close observation highly developed, but the faculty of attention becomes so highly strengthened that the pupil is able to exert the greatest amount of mental concentration with scarcely the consciousness of effort. And such a person then becomes a very giant in the manifestation of mental influence, for he is able to hold his mind one-pointed, as the Orientals describe it, until he has focused and directed a mighty degree of mental influence towards the desired object. Among the practices imposed upon their pupils by the occult masters may be named mathematics, drawing, analysis, etc. You will readily see why this is. To begin with, mathematics requires the undivided attention of the student. Unless he concentrates upon his examples, he will not be able to work out their solution. And according to the principle in nature that practice makes perfect and that exercise develops power, the practice of the mind along lines requiring voluntary attention and mental concentration will inevitably result in the acquirement of the mental control and power which renders possible the strongest manifestation of mental influence. The person who uses mental influence must certainly possess the power of focusing the force to a common point in order to manifest the greatest amount of power and influence. And that faculty of focusing results from the training of the mind along the lines of concentration. And concentration arises from the mastery of voluntary attention. So there you have the whole matter in a nutshell. So your first step towards acquiring mental influence should be to cultivate voluntary attention. We might fill page after page with exercises designed to strengthen your faculty of voluntary attention, but what would be the use? The best plan is to set you to work to find something upon which to concentrate, for the very search will develop attention. Look around you for some object to study in detail, then concentrate your attention upon it until you have seen all there is about it to be seen, and then take up another object and pursue the practice further. Take a page, this page if you will, and count the number of words on it. Then see how many words are required to fill each line on an average, and see how many letters there are in each word in each line on the whole page. Then go over the page and see if any words are misspelled, or if any of the letters are imperfect, etc. In short, get acquainted with this page until you know all about it. Then take up another page, and after studying it in the same way, compare the two, and so on. Of course, this will be dry and tedious unless you take an interest in it, and the interest may be aroused by remembering just what the exercise is designed for. After practicing this way for a short time each day, you will begin to find that you are able to bestow greater attention upon objects upon which you are trying to manifest mental influence. You are developing concentration, and that is the great secret of the use of mental influence, and explains the differences in its manifestation among men.